The Bioforge, a rusting steel maw dripping with synthetic fluids. The Gore Strider, a towering tripod of exposed muscle and calcified bone that hunts by sensing the electrical impulses of fear in prey. The Ocular Hive, a floating sphere composed entirely of weeping eyes that paralyzes observers by projecting their own nightmares onto their retinas. The Suture Beast, a patchwork scavenger stitched together from mismatched limbs that constantly tear and regenerate during locomotion. The Bile Dredge, a massive slug-like entity that secretes a corrosive enzyme capable of dissolving reinforced concrete within seconds. The Spine Lasher, a serpentine predator made solely of interlocked vertebrae that crushes steel cages with constriction force exceeding hydraulic presses. The Membrane Glider, a translucent sheet of living tissue that suffocates targets by wrapping its entire body around them like a wet shroud. The Carrion Balloon, a buoyant, gas-filled tick the size of a bus that explodes into a shower of parasitic larvae when punctured. The Geometric Ward, a hexagonal corridor rotating against gravity. The Fractal Stag, an ungulate with antlers that branch infinitely into microscopic dimensions, cutting through reality itself when it charges. The Prism Devourer, a multifaceted insectoid that refracts light to become invisible before slicing matter with razor-sharp glass limbs. The Tesseract Weaver, an arachnid that spins webs across 4 dimensions, trapping prey in a time loop before consumption. The Polygon Swarm, a hive mind of floating stone pyramids that arrange themselves into impossible shapes to crush intruders. The Vector Moth, a winged entity with wings so thin they possess only 2 dimensions, slicing the very air into vacuum pockets as it flies. The Glitch Stalker, a predator that flickers in and out of existence, appearing as a corrupted texture before physically phasing through solid walls. The Isotropic Worm, a burrower that is perfectly symmetrical from every angle, making it impossible to determine which end houses the devouring maw. The Sonic Silos, lid-lined walls vibrating from containment frequencies. The Decibel Drake, a flightless reptile with a throat sac that amplifies, screeches loud enough to liquefy internal organs from a mile away. The Echo Wraith, a translucent organism that only solidifies when sound waves hit it, becoming harder and sharper the louder the environment becomes. The Silence Engine, a biomechanical crab that absorbs all ambient sound, creating a zone of absolute sensory deprivation to disorient its victims. The Resonance Beetle, an armored titan that vibrates its carapace at a frequency specifically tuned to shatter human skeletal structures. The Throat Leech, a gigantic, tube-like parasite that mimics the voices of loved ones to lure unsuspecting handlers into its digestive tract.
Help me!
The Thunder Maw, a subterranean worm that snaps its jaws with such force It creates localized sonic booms that knock containment drones out of the sky. High-pressure vaults, titanium blast doors buckling under internal stress. The ferrofluid nightmare, a shape-shifting mass of magnetic liquid that spikes into hardened needles whenever a magnetic field is introduced. The tungsten bull, a quadruped with skin so dense it possesses its own gravitational pull, warping the floor plates beneath its hooves. The magma tick, a parasitic crustacean with a core temperature of 4,000 degrees, melting through standard containment units simply by resting. The gravity sloth, an arboreal giant that manipulates its own mass to become immovable, anchoring itself to reality like a black hole. The neutron ram, a battering ram creature with a skull density comparable to a dying star, capable of smashing through bunker-grade shielding. The mercury serpent, a fluid snake that splits into thousands of toxic droplets to evade capture before reforming to strike. The piston heart, a biomechanical organism with a visible external heart that pumps hydraulic fluid to power its piston-driven limbs. The Psionic Aviary, a glass dome piercing the cloud layer, electrified. The Thought Eater, an avian horror with no face, only a radar dish of flesh that consumes the memories of anyone who looks directly at it. The Vapor Ray, a floating flatfish composed of condensed steam that boils the humidity in the air to cook prey from a distance. The Insomnia Bat, a winged nocturnal predator that emits a psychic frequency, preventing any nearby organism from entering REM sleep until they collapse. The Neurocloud, a swarm of microscopic insects that collectively form the shape of a storm cloud, descending to short-circuit neural pathways. The Dream Siphon, a moth-like giant that feeds on the electrical activity of the sleeping brain, leaving victims in a permanent vegetative state. The Vertigo Hawk, a raptor that inverts the equilibrium of its prey, causing them to fall upward into the sky to be caught. The Botanical Horrors, reinforced glass holding back aggressive jungle growth. The Pollen Colossus, a walking agglomeration of allergenic spores that induces instant anaphylactic shock in any mammal within 100 yards. The Razor Fern Beast, a panther-like entity where every fur follicle is a serrated leaf capable of slicing through Kevlar suits. The Root Strangler, a subterranean network of sentient tubers that drags prey underground to use as fertilizer for its surface blooms. The Photosynthesis Leech, a sprawling vine creature that drains the pigment from skin, leaving victims as translucent husks. The Bark Skin Titan, a slow-moving giant encased in bulletproof timber plates that regenerates damage by absorbing soil nutrients.